Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you all are doing just superb. So let's start today's lecture. Today we are going to talk about beats, what beats are. Beat is very important element to discuss in journalism. So when we talk about beat means that your area of reporting, where you are reporting. So let's talk about beat. Okay, probably you are seeing this PowerPoint presentation on your screen. Beat reporting. So when you join journalism, especially reporting, you select a beat, an area which is according to your interest where you want to report. So what actually beat is? Beat is basically any area. Like if you are interested in environment, you want to report in environment, you select environment beat. If you are interested in city or the government or the politics or police, courts, neighborhood, immigration, politicians, poverty, weird people, politics, etc., etc. So any defined area of coverage is called beat. So when you select a beat, how to start? First, define the beat, what your beat actually is, and what it encompasses. What comes in your beat? Let's see if you are covering police, what comes under police? Let's say law and order, let's say VIP movements, let's say maintaining security of important people, etc., etc. Then make a list. What are their duties, what they do, and what you are going to cover in your beat. Deconstruct the dailies. Deconstruct the dailies mean that whatever is being published regarding your beat in dailies, you need to deconstruct it. That what kind of storage you are going to encounter in future. Start a tickler file. You need to actually maintain a file that what kind of story is coming your way in future. You need to have lunch with your sources. Lunching with your sources mean that you maintain your contact with your source. Quiz yourself whether you are doing all these things or not. Number one, defining the beat. What are the issues within your beat? What entities does your beat include? Like if you are covering uh, a health beat, so probably all the hospitals come under your beat. Then doctors come in your beat, under your beat. Medical superintendents, medical colleges probably, Ministry of Health, it comes under your beat. Who are the official people within your beat? You need to know them. And what kind of public meetings, events are happening in your beat? And what kind of public documents exist in your beat? Let's say you are covering health beat. You need to understand that what kind of public meetings they are holding in current month or coming months. What kind of documents are freely available to you in your beat. Let's say now everybody is talking about coronavirus. So you are covering health beat. So probably you are covering coronavirus. So you need to understand who is the focal person right now to contact in Punjab, or if you are covering in a federal area, who is the important person to contact in federal area like Islamabad. Then make a list, top 10 people to meet. All right. They could be doctors, they could be, he or she could be health minister, he or she could be medical superintendent of any hospital. Public meetings in next month to attend or in current months to attend. For instance, if they are holding um, any press conference, etc., any public meeting, you need to look into that. Find out what documents exist. Analyze how the dailies are reporting on this area. Talk to the people. Make regular contact with your sources. This is very much important to understand. Um, you should invite them on coffee, on lunch, snacks meetings with potential sources. Get out as much as possible. Get as much as possible information from your sources. Talk to the people when you do not need them, especially. It is very important to understand that you need to talk to the people when you actually do not need them. It gives them immense satisfaction that this journalist is in contact with us, and in future, if they get any news story, they will definitely going to give you. Don't rely on the internet. Most of the stories that come on internet, double check with them. In your beat, do not rely on internet, especially when there is disaster and when there is something happening big in in your beat. So do not rely on internet, because internet is the great source of fake news. Reading the news, reading other publication, looking for the stories that are covered but incompletely covered in your beat especially. So you need to look into, for instance, if you are working for Dawn, you need to look into Daily Jung, the news, Daily Pakistan, and other newspapers as well, that what they are publishing in your beat. It will give you an idea that what type of news stories are being published nowadays in your beat. Reading virtual and real bulletins boards to look for strange events. Use social media. Facebook is a good source for ideas, but I do not consider it a good source for journalists to get news stories. But Facebook for journalists is a special page on Facebook. You can join that page as well. Attend meetings, press conferences that are happening in your beat. Try to arrange interviews so that you aren't only reliant on what is said publicly. So at a meeting, look for what is most important and most interesting. Use the internet to stay in the loop. If there are organizations or groups that cover work on issues you care about, sign up for the listservs, check their chat rooms, newsletters, their Facebook pages, their Twitter feed. Set up a personal news page so that you are receiving articles and alerts on topics that interest you. For instance, if you're covering health, you need to subscribe all the health related Twitter accounts on Twitter, or you need to like all the pages on Facebook that deals with your beat. So it's a good idea to get story ideas from social media as well. But again, do not rely on the news stories coming from social media. You can get an idea from social media what to cover, but you should not be getting stories from social media. Learn everything you can. Being a beat reporter means you need to know everything. I mean, everything you can learn about your beat. That means talking to the people in the field and doing a lot of reading and research. This can be especially challenging if you are covering a complex beat like science or medicine, because sometimes probably your educational background is not from science or medicine, and you are covering science or medicine, then you need to talk a lot with the people who are expert in that field. Get to know the players. Who are the players? Players means the most important people. If you are covering a beat, you need to know the movers and shakers in the field. So if you are covering the local police, so that means you need to know the police chief, you need to know the DIG and the IG and the SSPs and the SPs. So know as many as important people. It is very important. Build trust, cultivate contacts. This is very important. When I was doing reporting, so building trust with your source is single most important, because if you haven't built trust with your reporters and you haven't cultivated contacts with them, probably they are going to give news stories to the people who build trust with them. So beyond just getting to know the people on your beat, you need to develop a level of trust with at least some of them, to the point where they become reliable contacts for you or reliable sources for you. Why is this necessary? Because sources can provide you with tips and valuable information for your upcoming articles. If you have, let's say you have a very good friend in police department and something happens in Lahore, and he thinks, okay, fine, I have a friend in this channel and he invites me on dinner regularly, he calls me every single day, he send me SMS messages, he send me WhatsApp messages, and he asks me on every other occasion that how I'm doing. So why not give this story to that journalist? So that means you have developed trust with that person. So that trust based relationship gives you a lot of news stories. Always remember your readers. Reporters who cover a beat for years and develop a strong network of sources sometimes fall into the trap of doing stories that are only of the interest to their sources. Sometimes these sources play a very different game with you. Sometimes they put stories front of you that are in their interest. So you should not fall into the trap of doing stories that are only for the interest of your sources. Their heads have become so immersed in their beat, they have forgotten that what the outside world looks like. So if you are, covering police beat and you have a lot of friends in police, probably sometime your sources are going to feed you a wrong story or a story which is fake. So you need to take care of these things, that your sources don't feed you fake story. For almost every beat, first learn the system in your beat, how things work, who's who, what's what. So learn the language and the terms of your beat. Let's say if you're covering medicine or health beat, you need to learn the terms, basic medical terminology. You do not need to be a medical practitioner for that, but you can learn it on the internet from the books as well. Get to know the important people, develop sources, be persistent. That's very important, and be prepared all the time. Read everything you can. Law, other news coverage, reports, ask questions to your friends or to your sources. Look for who has the most to gain, the most to lose with each decision or the action. For instance, if someone gives you a story, you need to understand who is getting some gain from that story and who's losing something. It will actually give you an idea whether someone is feeding you a story or not. So this is very much important. Remember, needs, interest, and curiosity. The need focuses on the essential information like knowing what roads are closed, how to order events tickets, when taxes will rise, what services are closed on a holiday. So needs also refer to analysis to explain how and why something will affect readers, their families, their work, their pocketbooks, their rights, their property, their right to move around. Interests basically focus on the reader's wants, desires, and intentions. These vary, but reporters should be aware of them when reporting on event issues, people, and ongoing problems and activities. So, what has sparked discussions and letters in the past? Who is being served? Who is being ignored? What do people talk about? So, these are the interest based. So, if you are on the Twitter, you get to know very well that what are the interests of the public right now. So, curiosity is our friend. The water cooler factor, stories with drama, conflict, and emotion appeals to the readers across a wide spectrum. So many of you noted that in your news analysis, beat stories with human face that shows who the news affects and how draw more readers than beat stories that focus on process and policies. So you need to understand the curiosity, that why people are curious about certain things. So John Sweeney advocates asking the following question of every beat story, especially those dealing with government agencies, business, and social issues. What is the news? What is the news about it? Why is news? Who is it news to? Will they know it is a news? What will it take to get them to read it? So these are the 6 questions you should also ask yourself when you are covering a beat story. More questions you should ask: what kind of person is likely to be intensely interested in this news story you are covering? Consider who counts on your newspaper for this kind of story. Again, you need to consider what information do you need to provide to meet this person's need. What kind of person has a passing interest in this type of story? What sort of information is likely to catch and hold this person's interest? Who is the long short reader who doesn't usually read this kind of story? Do you have some information that can draw this uh, reader in? Can you broaden the interest to attract this reader? So that means when you are covering a beat story, you need to understand your readers, those who read your newspaper or those who watch your television. Again, you have to look into the interests of the people who actually do not read these kind of stories as well, that how you can bring them along. Then you need to anticipate when your beat fits into the upcoming news events. Use your beat to illustrate a microcosm of a national issue. Subcultures are fascinating story vehicles. Use your beat to find them. Again, use the news analysis sensibility to exploit your expertise. How can you explain or illuminate the issue subject for your readers? Again, keep track of casual anecdotes. These might be a story. There might be a story there. There are sometimes small anecdotes. And these small anecdotes leads you to a bigger story. So use your beat to document changing demographics, note how new laws affect your beat, look for profile opportunities that connect the dots. Some more tips: write to and for the readers, not for the editors or not for your sources. Make your stories useful and relevant. Explain impact, find real people, put examples in your context, use diverse examples, dig for numbers if there are needed and if there are any numbers. Numbers means that numerical data regarding your story. Let's say, let's talk about coronavirus. So numerical data will be that there will be 25 people who are dead, like 150 people who are tested positive, and 300 people who are in the quarantine, etc., etc. These are the numbers. So always look for the numbers. Establish and develop characters, put the readers in there, unfold the plot, identify the conflict, establish important themes, let the readers listen, use the senses. More beat reporters cover the most news at most newspaper, emergency services, police and fire, that includes crime, accidents, etc. Some other beats like business, consumer reporting, science, environment, energy and transportation, health and medicine, social services, tribes, immigration policy, economic policy, diversity, etc., etc. These are some areas reporters actually cover. Some art beats, like some reporters, they are interested in music, some are interested in theater, dance, visual arts, television, movies, culture, fashion, etc., etc. These are again some areas for reporters to cover. So that was beat reporting. Let me give you a summary of this lecture. Basically, you need to understand that when you are in a TV channel or in a newspaper, you cover a specific area. You cannot cover everything. Let's say your editor thinks that you are good with crime stories, so you will cover crime stories only. So when you are assigned a beat, you need to understand that area. So for crime, you need to understand police, you need to understand law enforcement agencies, you need to understand criminals as well. You need to understand the terminology police use. You need to understand the law, uh, that how police actually capture someone and put him in for remand, then present him in front of a magistrate or in a court. So you need to understand the law as well. These are some basic things that you select an area, you understand that area, you develop context, and then you cover that area for your respective newspaper or for your respective TV channel. So that's it, guys, for today. Thank you very much for being patient. So we'll continue our online classes. So next time when you'll see me, we'll talk about how to cover press conferences, events, and political gatherings. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself and have fun. Bye bye.